Okay, so whenever something from a fictional IP exists, someone has to ask, can we beat it? We, in this case, meaning the world's greatest unhealthcare system. Somehow nobody has done this for the Ace Combat universe. This is what I'm doing today, pitting war enthusiasts against competitive war practitioners. I do want to caveat this by saying, unlike comparing two militaries based in reality, where you can just buy a copy of Command Modern Operations and simulate a fight to get a somewhat decent idea, based in reality is something that Ace Combat very much isn't. All that is to say, I made a few assumptions and guesses, and some things were revealed to me in a dream. This video was actually very hard to make, and the script had to be rewritten like 6 times. If you do not agree with my assumptions, drop a comment down below explaining why I'm wrong and stupid, but at least I didn't put like 3 incompatible mods into a game and called it a day. Will superior technology and doctrine of Earth come out on top against sheer numbers and raw performance of Ace? You know what? Screw this, just roll the intro. Okay, normally it doesn't get this foggy like 100 kilometers off of Hawaii. This is Carrier Strike Group 9. They are participating in maneuvers in a large military exercise. Adamant Shield 26 sees US, JSDF, and ADF forces combat an all-out attack from the People's Republic of Ovana. On day 1, a Carrier Strike Group from the Ovana People's Navy attempted to contest the coast of Northern Australia. A large missile exchange ensues which sees the HMAS Toowoomba vaporized when 3 YJ-18 slam into her side, but the Australians assign 1/3 of the Ovanan carrier fleet to permanent submarine duty. On Day 2, Indo-Pacific Command, seeing Ovana's most capable carrier suddenly not being so capable anymore, decides to send in their own carrier. Hence why Carrier Strike Group 9 is on the move. They will meet up with some hunter-killer groups and one survivor from Day 1's exchange that will totally not become very important in 2 minutes and go to interdict some trade. Okay, but none of that explains why nobody can see anything through the fog, and why none of the radars, radios, and satellite comms work, and why there are royalty-free green screen lightning effects on the screen. And just like that, everything's fine again. In the CIC, technicians are diagnosing why GPS and SATCOM are very inconsiderately still broken while everything else is working again when they get a call from the bridge saying that all of their escorts are gone. And it's like 4 AM or something when it was clearly just midday 5 minutes earlier. Oh, and also, Captain! That is not an early Burke. Through the international emergency frequency, the crew of the Roosevelt managed to confirm that this is not a prank by the event's organizers and an honest-to-God Type 055. The crew of the Dalian is actually equally confused about how they ended up here. But before the initial shock can give way to tension, the HMAS Arunta appears. She was supposed to meet up with Carrier Strike Group 9. On Earth, that is. Task failed successfully, I guess. But hey, at least they made it. Then, a wild F-217 Bayern appears. God damn it, we were this close to being able to call it a Federation of Pacific ships. Next to show is the D-35 Dragon of the Royal Navy. The captain of the Dragon has a very simple proposition. Aboard the Dragon is a locker full of Yorkshire tea gold, which they are more than happy to distribute to the fleet should they be invited. There is one exception to this, which is the S-635 Soufrian, because, you know, France. Her captain surfaced just to make sure her sonar wasn't tweaking out when it said there were 7 ships, each from a different country, all gathered. What do you mean by 7? Last to join is the DDG-180 Haguro. She is equipped with 8 very special tools that will come in handy later. To make this script shorter, because engagement is very important in my videos, they all just get a piece of paper that just says, hello, you are in Strangreal, an anomalous vortex brought you here, and oh yeah, go here in 6 days, and another one will bring you home, signed John Ace Combat. Oh, and we'll just assume all the data links and stuff are all compatible, so while you are not going to be popping RIMD 174s out of GJB 5A60-2006, who the f named this, at least E2s can help guide in HHQ-9s if needed. Looking at the situation, Vice Admiral Wilson realizes that having all of your intended escorts getting Thanos snapped away is actually not the worst thing to happen. He has a destroyer that is basically a cruiser, 2 destroyers, one of them essentially being one of the ships he lost but just better armed, a frigate that is basically a destroyer, a nuclear attack submarine, and the exact same frigate that he was meant to meet up with anyways. HMAS Arunta is assigned on radar picket duty. She goes active and oh my god, there is something CBDR. Constant bearing decreasing range. Now a lot of things can do this, but also a quite sizable fraction of them could also be incoming anti-ship missiles. The entire fleet goes to general quarters for all of 2 seconds until the inbound contact identifies itself as the OCMPA Poseidon. Anyways, one thing leads to another, and 3 hours later, Admiral of the Ocean Maritime Self-Defense Force 7th Fleet Conrad von Hoffnung boards the Roosevelt. Lots of handshaking ensues, but the meeting is otherwise very tense. The Oceans very much do not want a carrier strike group in their waters. On the other hand, the international fleet just wants to go home. The meeting concludes with a live fire demonstration. The Oceans are very surprised when what appears to be a F-35 manufactured by Lockwood McCord of South Osea does some very non-F-35 manufactured by Lockwood McCord of South Osea things by chucking a missile that immediately pulls a 180 and hits a target drone behind it. Likewise, the international fleet are equally surprised after checking and double-checking to make sure that they had very much just seen an F-35 regrow a whole missile on his pylon mid-air. Before Hoffnung leaves, he hands Vice Admiral Wilson some information about the world of Strangreal in an attempt to indebt the international fleet, which Wilson counters with a bottle of whiskey he ordered one of the lieutenants to confiscate and a copy of Navy and Illustrated History. For this feat of quick thinking, the rest of the captains choose Vice Admiral Wilson as the de jure leader of the international fleet. A DC-10 goes down on the outskirts of Arad. Why? No clue. The plane is 50 years old. DC-10 doesn't have the greatest build quality either, being nicknamed the Death Carrier 10 and all. SoCo-Link maintenance procedures consist of handing Ivan a hammer and telling him to get on with it. This makes it really surprising when social media is instantly flooded by claims that it was done by the humans from Earth. An image of an F-18 firing a missile here, a video from the hit video game War 3 there, a leaked statement from the Ocean delegation saying that the Earthlings were angry when told that they couldn't go back only fuels the flames. International fleet involvement is all but confirmed when the Ocean Air Defense Force subsequently announces that no radar contacts when Yuktabanian DC-10 went down, confirming that it was, of course, an American F-35 like all the people smarter than you had been saying all along. Public opinion in Osea and Yuktabania turned sharply against the international fleet, and against the advice of all but one of their admirals, Yuktabanian and Osean leadership form a coalition and vowed to avenge the deaths of those aboard the Air Sokol flight. The international fleet has no idea that they are under attack until the CFAR radar on the HMAS Arunta detects 16 inbound contacts at a range of 200 miles. Vice Admiral Wilson correctly deduces that one does not send 16 planes at Mach 1.5 to do diplomacy. The Roosevelt is caught off guard. The meeting was tense, but not "we're gonna kill you tomorrow" tense. But she manages to throw up 2 Hornets and a Hawkeye AWACS to intercept. Using a radar technology called non-cooperative target recognition, the fleet identifies the incomings as 12 F-15s and a 4-ship of B-1s following right behind. Despite being outnumbered, the Hornets have several important advantages. Earth sensors are generally better than their Strangreal counterparts. Earth missiles have more range, do not alert targets until the last seconds, and require specific maneuvers to evade, maneuvers that the Oceans do not know how to perform. If all else fails, they can still rely on long-range ship-based surface-to-air missiles. Of the 8 AMRAAMs launched, 7 make it to their targets. The Ocean ground controllers are horrified as half the aircraft they command suddenly disappear. The surviving Eagles are ordered to push on. For their part, the American Hornets also close in since they have to defeat the bombers as well. The Hornets and the Eagles fired their second volley at roughly the same time. 4 Sidewinders passed 24 AAMs in flight. The 4 Sidewinders all hit. Flares might have worked if these were the M9Ms of the Cold War, but in the age of imaging infrared heat seekers that look for plane-shaped heat signatures, a little ball of fire is not gonna cut it. Ace combat missiles do not lead, thus the frontmost Hornet is able to pull the incoming missiles to his 3 o'clock, barely evading them. His wingman is not so lucky, he reacts a second slower, and that is enough for 7 4 AAMs to slam into his cockpit, killing him instantly. The sole surviving F-18 merges with the sole surviving F-15. Now it's a dogfight. In terms of raw performance, Strangreal aircraft completely outclassed their Earth counterparts. Yet the pilot of the Hornet, Lieutenant Commander Jonathan Thomas Gunn, is a graduate of the Navy's Fighter Weapons School. While clearly losing the fight, he does drag it out by presenting very odd angles for gun and missile shots to hit. This continues for the next minute until the Haguro is able to lob a SM-2 in what would be a friendly fire-inducing maneuver if it weren't for data link and IFF, which allows the missile to nail the F-15. Haguro follows this up with 4 more SM-2s taking down 1 B-1 Lancer each. The orbiting E-2 tells Haguro of 4 Sukhois approaching. The Haguro thanks them for the compliment. Negative, Sukhoi, I repeat, Sukhoi. Sea skimming, 20 miles. Flying at 10 meters above the sea, they are hidden from Haguro's radar by the curvature of Strangreal, which is why it was caught off guard. But this is a problem with a solution. Many of the missiles carried by the international fleet have an over-the-horizon attack capability to counter low-flying anti-ship missiles. They can home onto a target independently from the host ship sensors. The era of sea-skimming aircraft evading air defense is dead, and the AIM-174 killed it. In the course of 20 minutes, 16 fighters and 4 bombers from Strangreal were defeated at the cost of a single Earth fighter. The Strangreal coalition halts operations to re-evaluate what they're up against, which is clearly not just our tech but more advanced, but something completely different. The first raid was intended to test the waters, but they didn't even scratch the paint, while entire ports have fallen for less. For the international fleet's part, they are working just as hard to identify what they're up against, although they have less information to work with. 2 American F-35s fly towards the location of the vortex. To the consternation of Vice Admiral Wilson, they confirmed the little smudge on the map they received from Hoffnung is actually an island and not just a printing mistake. Using the F-35's advanced AN APG-81 radar, a bunch of math, and a whole lot of processing power, the F-35 is able to generate a 3D scan of the island through a technology called synthetic aperture radar. Even though the island seems to somehow disrupt radar, the intel shop on the Roosevelt is still able to make out a large airbase. The island is actually quite close to where the time vortex is, meaning that in theory, the coalition could flood it with tons of anti-air and anti-ship missiles and deny the international fleet from going there. The TLDR is that this island needs to go, and it needs to go now. 0700 local time sees the OFS Finch detecting 8 inbound missiles. These are from the F-217 Bayern, targeted in a 3-5 split between the Finch and the island. RBS-15's terminal evasive maneuvers throw off interceptor missiles and Finch's Sea-Wiz. Finch's Sea-Wiz nails a single RBS-15 at the last second while the other two gut her engines. Meanwhile, SAMs, XMs, and the stupid little 80 tank things that keep blowing my missiles up activate their radars. This is instantly picked up by the orbiting F-35s through their electronic warfare sensors. This information is relayed to the battle group, and the real killing begins. A wave of 32 AGM-80AG ARGM-ERs are launched. These are anti-radiation missiles. They are designed to hit surface-to-air missile sites and radars from an absolutely insane range. Following behind them are various surface-to-air missiles being used in an anti-surface capacity, and a dozen SLAM-ER cruise missiles. The normal SAMs are eviscerated while the 80 tanks and XMs put up a slightly better fight, requiring more than a single missile to take out. But in the end, there are just too many incoming. Once the air defenses are clear, the F-18s move in to hit the rest of the island with bombs, while the advanced radar and IR sensors aboard the F-35 spot new targets. While putting the runway out of action permanently might be very difficult in the modern era, the American strike aircraft do make sure that all the barracks and heavy repair equipment receive a special gift of JDAM for their troubles. Fortunately for the Oceans, the international fleet has just announced where it is very loudly. While Strangreal sensor technology is not the greatest, Coalition High Command is able to make a rough guess of the fleet's location using data from the air defense systems on the island. At 1200 local time, an orbiting E-2D detects 24 fighters and AWACS approaching the fleet from Osea. These are a combination of Osean F-14s and Yuktobanian MiG-35s. Roosevelt halts her recovery operations to launch 8 FA-18s to intercept. The Hornets launched their first salvo of 16 AMRAAMs, but are surprised when the Oseans manage to evade half their missiles. The presence of an AWACS gives coalition aircraft better situational awareness and missile warning, allowing the veteran Osean pilots to better use their aircraft's sheer kinematic performance, or in other words, the raw speed and turn rate of their aircraft to evade the incoming missiles. Not needing to constantly notch, the coalition pilots rapidly close the distance. Emboldened by yesterday's success, the FA-18s push in to shoot sidewinders. Then they fly perpendicular to the incoming aircraft to present bad angles for non-leading missiles. But the coalition learned from yesterday's mistakes already. The Tomcats and Foxbats are equipped with long-range air-to-air missiles. While no missile from Ace Combat is going to actually be long-range, these missiles accelerate to Mach 12 and are easily capable of pulling hundreds of Gs, and they destroy 4 Hornets in under 10 seconds despite their poor guidance. The coalition pilots immediately break off to avoid the HHQ-9Cs and RIM-174s launch their way. The rest of the day only gets worse as more coalition aircraft show up. The Oseans set up a hot lap of aircraft annoyingly far away to intercept, but close enough that they could be on the fleet in minutes if the attack order is given. The Yuktobanians are bolder with their crews, using aircraft equipped with the deadly long-range air-to-air missile and the high-velocity air-to-air missile. They managed to push back the conservative FA-18 and F-35 interceptors to as close as 60 miles from the Roosevelt. Planes hurriedly modified with parts, basically items that magically enhance an aircraft or weapon's performance with no downsides, and special weapons managed to close the disparity between the coalition and the fleet. The coalition manages to keep over 200 fighters in the area, having the dual purpose of forcing the Roosevelt to dedicate all of her fighters to anti-air and keeping their enemies constantly spotted. Whoa, that's it? That's the video? No, that was part 1. But to make this short, I originally intended this video to be something chill that I can knock out in a weekend before the Warno video. The original intention was to make a video where I examine how Ace Combat depicts real-life technology, and then it got out of hand. Okay, since we're correcting Ace Combat technology, let's just correct some misconceptions. Oh, and it needs to be realistic, it needs to have cool sound effects, aura, and hype moments, and a whole plot line as well, you know, a bunch of humor, 10 trillion references, and I wanted to track every single missile fired when I wasn't even simulating each engagement. I was just eyeballing the outcome. Oh, and if there's anything a base game or a mod doesn't have, I'll just mod it in myself, you know? I say as I spend the next 3 hours trying to give the F-35 a high off-bore side capability. And I was doing this all without consulting the people who actually do this for a living. So of course my script took a month to write, and I start editing and get 2 minutes done, and oh my god, it's been a whole day. What the hell? Unlike larger channels, I can't just release a video and bank on the fact that people will watch it. Anyways, that means I will be releasing part 1 as it is. then a few unrelated videos, and then part 2 when I regain the mental strength to take this challenge on. Anyways, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. You know, this is just a thought experiment, pretty much. You can understand for Ace Combat's part, their technology is esoteric nonsense, and modern military technologies are typically classified to hell and back. And this is the best I could have done to my abilities. The next video will probably be Warning Order and its cool modding scene, and then maybe Wings of Glory after that, but we'll see. If you like this video, please like and subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!